Hello everyone, welcome to the Leverage Summit. This is really the ultimate in the Momentum Series classes because this is the class that is all about whether or not, really that's the main focus, but whether or not you're ready to start a team, and then all the tools and things that you do need to start a team, whether it's an assistant, a buyer's agent, or a full force real estate conglomerate. And again, just like all of our classes, you can't skip ladder rungs, right? And so we need to know if you guys are ready to do that, and that's what a lot of this is going to be about. This class is for experienced agents. This class is for agents who are ready to move past the idea or the concept that real estate is a get-rich business. Marco, you took the real estate perspective?
Yes, sir.
So you remember that first part of it that said real estate is a get-rich business, don't you?
No.
You don't remember that?
No.
Well, that was the first concept, okay, in our real estate perspective, which is that
No, that you said it wasn't.
that it is a get-rich business. It's just not a get-rich-quick business, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what we were talking about today is we want you guys to be, at this point, possibly ready to move past get-rich and get into get-wealthy. That's what this is about, okay? Real estate can be a get-rich class. I mean, a get-rich career can also be a get-wealthy career. What's the difference between the two? Mike?
Wealthy is where your money's working for you. Rich is where you're working for your money.
I'll take it. I'll take that as a good answer. So the idea here is that when you get rich and you stop working, Laura, what happens to the money or the income?
What happens when you get rich?
What happens when you stop working?
You stop making money.
You stop making money. Well, when you're wealthy, the money doesn't stop coming in. Okay, and that's what we're trying to build here. Okay. So this contains all the tools necessary to build a highly proficient team. We're not going to ask you to create anything. All the tools have been created, Mike. Okay? All you have to do is assemble them, assemble those tools, and you can start a team. This is going to basically pick up where reaching your potential leaves off. Anybody who hasn't taken reaching your potential, that's all about scheduling. So you can imagine you need to be a little organized to be successful in this aspect. If you're ready to build a team, you have to have your systems in place. Okay? So this shows you how to build a team, leverage off other people, how to make real estate a get-wealthy business. So let's jump in. I think we're good. Okay, so we're going to start off with this quote right here. And I first want to change this. Okay. So who knows who the person in the quote is? Jim. You can't even read it? Okay, come on, follow along in the book.
Put your glasses on.
There we go.
Have you heard of that guy?
Oh yeah.
You know who it is?
Who was he, Jim?
Who saved them in life?
The old Dolphin coach.
The old coach of the Miami Dolphins. Most people know him better as the greatest football coach of all time. Greatest college football. Sorry, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Greatest college football coach of all time. He coaches Alabama. Nick Saban. So Nick Saban, a man who coaches and sees and is around the most talented individuals on this planet 24/7. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
He gets the best recruits. His third string is going to be just as good as most teams' first strings.
Yeah.
So he sees the most talented people on earth every single day. Okay, so here's what Nick Saban said. People assume everyone wants to reach their potential and be the best they can be. I've concluded most only want to be average and do just enough to get by.
I agree with that 1,000,000,000%.
Suzanne, why do you agree with that?
Because I've interviewed thousands of agents and most of them just want to get by. That's what their whole goal is. And Laura, that's one big thing that Laura has a problem with. That's probably her biggest thing that she has a problem with is that she is so up here and most people want to get by and she's always saying, well, she doesn't understand that part, I think.
Would you agree with that? Okay. So, but you want to strive for excellence.
Always. Pretty easy.
But you understand the brevity of what he's saying here. This is a man who sees the best athletes on earth go through his doors. And most of them, he says, don't even try very hard. Remember the example of Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
And how much that they maybe aren't that much more talented than anybody that they play around, but their drive and determination is what got them to the top? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing Nick Saban is saying here. It's that it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you put the drive in, if you do the work, you can get to that next level. All right, Mike knows that. All right, cool. Well, let's move on then. So, we'll remember some of these pages that we're going to be teaching. This one comes right from Real Estate Perspective. Marco, you remember this one?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So then you know what the answer at the top of the page. Why work? To make money, right? The reason that we work is to make money. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this page because we've seen it before, but the whole point here is you have 24 hours within your day. Okay, you don't have more time than that, do you, Laura?
I have 36.
You have 36? How'd you get it? Do you know Dumbledore? You have a time turner? That's the only way I can think of. You have 24. You might be able to get 36 hours worth of work done in 24 hours, but there is the difference.
I have to delegate it.
Well, we will hope. But that is the point. Okay, you only have 24 hours, and inside of 24 hours, you need to take care of yourself, don't you? You need to have some fun sometimes, right? You need to take care of your kids, right? You need to take care of your spouses, your relationships. You also need to work. All inside of the same 24 hours. And guess what? If you sleep at all, you got less than that. Okay? So, how does somebody like Laura get that much more done than your average realtor within the same amount of time? Because she doesn't have 36 hours, right? It's because she's focused on doing the right activities at the right time. And I promise you, and this may be getting ahead of ourselves, if you're not going to be focusing on the right activities at the right time, you are not yet ready to start a team. Okay, so what we want here is a passive income, right? That's what building a team is going to eventually be able to get you to, right? In the beginning, you're going to be working, right? So we see over here in the finances category, if we remember that the E is an employee, right? 9 to 5 working for the man. And SE is self-employed. Right? That's most real estate agents, independent contractors, right? You're self-employed, you're your boss. Okay? B is business owner, and the difference between business owner and self-employed, Mike, what's the difference?
You have a lot of employees, usually
A lot, but
500 is usually, I think, the number.
the main difference is if you stop working as a self-employed person, your business stops working. As a business owner, you've got people in places to do things. That business could be just as successful, if not more so, if you take a nice long vacation. And then you have I, an investor, and that's a completely passive income. We want to be more passive if we can be. That's the goal, so we'd all want to be investors, right? Well, good luck, because I don't know too many people who made a fortune in the stock market. There is a handful, right? But
Like professional gambling, it's like legal gambling.
sure, Mike, that's your other option. Let's try this first, though.
I'm saying the stock market is like gambling.
That's another class.
In fact, we have an agent, Brad Rubin. He's a world-class poker player. I'll introduce you. Okay.
I'll take them up.
Anyway, so when you have earned income, work is a necessity, right? You got to wake up every day, Laura, and go to work, don't you? Right? So you're going to make money, but you're going to have a lot of time taken out of your schedule, right? So the goal is to eventually have a more passive income. When work becomes a choice, you can put in whatever you want out of it, but you still have the expectation that your business will be profiting. That's when you get both money and time is added to the equation. And that's when you start to live a life of abundance that we like to call it, an unlimited life in a limited amount of time. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, when you get to live Jim and Sue's life.
Exactly, so like Jim and Sue, here's the main question that we can add to this page.
I
And you
have something to look forward to.
you can write this down, right? Because you need to answer this question, each and every one of you. So do you want work to become a choice someday? Right? And do you want to generate both time and money? That's what you need to be asking yourself. Okay, so let's move to page 5. Oh, you didn't have a book. It's a little late to bring that up, but there you go. 5 is choosing a career path, okay? So this is a page that we are actually repeating from the Reaching Your Potential class. That's activities management. We will be offering that shortly, so you will want to take that as well. But today's class is not asking you whether you want to be typical or abundant, like in Reaching Your Potential. If you're sitting here today, we know you're abundant, right? That's what you have to be already. You cannot be the typical salesperson if you're in this class. You need to be the unique. You need to be the entrepreneur. That's the only way we're going to take it to the next level. Okay, so let's go over this page really quickly. Full-time realtors fall into one of 4 categories. Your typical salesperson, which remains in phase 1, and we'll figure out what the phases really mean as we go. A unique salesperson is somebody who can progress from phase 1 to phase 2. A typical entrepreneur jumps from phase 1 to phase 3, completely bypassing phase 2. And a unique entrepreneur progresses all the way to the end, right? So first you need to establish your approach. Are you typical or unique? What do you guys want to be, typical or unique?
Very unique.
That's right, you want to be different from the rest, right? Typical people stay in their comfort zone. They're spontaneous and reactive, right? They only do things when they're easy and convenient. Unique people seek potential. They're intentional and proactive. They're challenging and they're rewarding. Okay? So then, once you figure out that you want to be unique, and I'm glad that that's where we all are right now, then you have to determine, do you want to be a salesperson? Because a salesperson focuses on their job. It's all about you. And you can get rich that way. Or do you want to focus on your business, with leverage being the key? This is how we can possibly get wealthy. And obviously, it's a lot harder to get there, right? Okay. So everyone begins as a typical salesperson, so let's look at it this way. And what you have in the middle from being a typical salesperson is the choices that you make, whether or not you want to move to unique, right? And you can become a typical entrepreneur, but at the end of the day, you still lose when you stop working, okay? So we want to be unique entrepreneur. Does this page make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so we have that path, we understand it, and we want to help you get there. Okay, so the next page. The power of delegation. So who believes in the power of delegation? I hope everybody does. Okay, because Darren Hardy teaches the most successful people, he studies the most successful people and teaches those how to become the most successful people on this planet. And he says the number one trait that any of those most successful CEOs, your Steve Jobs when he was alive, your Richard Bransons, your Warren Buffetts, their best skill is their power of delegation. Okay, so 5 great reasons to delegate. There's a limited amount of time, right? Laura, if you could successfully delegate, when I say successfully, you can count on the people you're delegating to. If you could just delegate to another you, right? You'd have a lot more time, right? You'd probably be able to get that 36 hours, if not more. Okay? So you want to operate at your highest and best use, right? Mike,
Yes.
if you're really great at getting listings, wouldn't it be awesome if you could spend all day just sitting in front of sellers getting listings?
Of course.
Right?
Dollar productive activities.
But you got to file your stuff in app files, man. You got to take 2 hours doing that.
Transaction coordinator.
There you go. But that's the point, right? Your highest and best use is probably not something administrative. Your highest and best use is probably not marketing. Truth be told, your highest and best use is probably not giving staging advice. That's something you could teach to somebody. Doesn't that make sense? Your highest and best use is literally sitting there, and this is how it should sound. When you walk into a person's house and you get that listing agreement signed, you hand it off to your secretary, and you go, where's my next listing coming from? That's what the highest and best use of a realtor looks like.
I got that part down, but the problem, the bottom line is that not everybody can do what I can do.
I agree with you.
And I don't think I can teach some of the things that I do.
I'm going to
And
agree
I
with the
don't
first part.
I don't think that a lot of people, one thing I learned, and obviously doing that for your dad was something I was just doing, but that's something I've learned in trial and error, is that I don't even tell that to people until they sign the listing agreement.
Okay.
I was making a mistake. First of all, I was offending them.
Yep.
And one thing that I've learned is that I tell people that the way we live and the way that we sell a home are 2 totally different things.
No, I'm not disagreeing
And
with
I
any
don't
of
think
that.
that I can hand it off. Right now I can tell you that I couldn't hand it off to Lori. Lori could not do what I can do, and she's been with me for years.
Okay.
I don't feel that majority of agents can do what I can, when it comes to that thing. Like, that's one thing that I feel like it comes out well.
Well, let me just say, just to put that to bed.
So
So
to
the
hand
point
it just
is,
off, I can't
everybody-
do it, and maybe it's a mental thing.
everybody
You need to
has
find someone you
things.
can pour it into. You need to find
Yeah, but
someone
how
that-
many people am I gonna pour it into where there's, I get the delegating. You have to realize I have an assistant and I have a transaction coordinator. You did a deal with me, so you know. I have Jeannie and I have Lori. How many more people can and then when does it come away from me where I'm not giving what I am and who I am and why you should work with me? Because then you might as well just work with Zillow. Because all it is a machine.
Yeah,
I thought about that too with the buyer's agent, because I thought about having a showing agent, and I was like, you know what, and they're not getting the chance experience,
And
they're not out there building that
and
connection,
you know
that
what?
rapport with them.
Yeah,
I thought about that.
and that, I think that's been my hardest, and I'm being honest, and
No,
I
not
know
that.
you probably need to teach your class.
No,
I'm gonna
it's-
screw you up by a
This
day.
is better.
But I'm telling you where I'm having my problems, and I know what I make a year, and I know what I do a year, and that's me, all me.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is that you come to me because of me. You don't come to me because of my showing agent. If you use a showing agent here and there, that's one thing, but you can never completely Because you're right, you're not getting the Michael LaChance, you're not getting the Laura Sanders experience, the Laura Sanders knowledge that when Laura walks through and Laura goes, oh, fascia board, you don't want to use a roofer for that. I got a handyman for that. It's quarter of the price. You know what? That's an electrical box. Oh, it's a couple of $1,000, that's electrical. It's $850 to change it.
That's why I think if the thing though too is, I mean, before I did real estate, I was a restaurant manager, managed a lot of people, highly successful stores across the country, and delegation, you need to hire the right people. So if I hire a secondary Michael Chance and say, hey, you know what, he's not me, but I'm gonna pass him
Mike,
to you.
I want to take your example,
Once
actually.
you teach him to be you, you know what you does?
But they put their touch on it. You give them the freedom to be
But
themselves.
here's why his example is perfect.
They leave
Because Outback has solved that riddle.
It does, yeah.
Outback created Mike LaChance.
I can't cook, make salads, I can't be at the
Do you understand? Outback tells you how to be
a
a successful manager. They have a system.
That's
And
what
they
you
made
have
Mike.
to do.
You have to reflect on that, and you have to let
They
go of whatever it
leave.
is. It's holding.
No, because the reason, Laura,
How do
you
you
have to,
stay?
this is, my brother is a great, I could send him out to any listing for many years and he comes back with almost everyone. He's
Yeah.
even better than Jim and I.
Train
He's
him better.
amazing. No,
Yeah.
he's been with me from day one. It's just that he's a great closer and the people love him. When he's out there, he's a great closer. I've
You
never.
gotta hire great people.
But
Hire great
my brother does not like to get leads. So you need to have a system where you're bringing in the leads and then you need to have people that are gonna
Everybody has
specialize in
something
one
to add.
area.
But you
So then
just
when they
gave me a
leave-
perfect example again though, Suzanne. Where is he?
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Exactly. It
saying.
didn't stay in the business though.
Right.
It's the constant
But no,
problem.
but that's a
The only
turnover.
people
It's
that
like
I
any
can
business-
stand-
any business is
He's
like
come and
that.
gone, back and out of
Okay.
your business, but
Yeah,
but he's not reliable to you because he leaves again.
Is there
And the
any
only
examples
I've
of people who
found-
have done it correctly?
Well,
You
listen,
know who Tim Elms is?
yeah, I've heard of his name.
He makes more
Como
money
banker,
than you
right?
do, but you probably never
He has
met
a
him.
team?
He
Is he a
never
Remax
goes
agent?
out.
Como banker, right?
Yes.
No,
Tim
I've heard of
Singer
his
is
name.
probably very comparable to you, but you will never meet Tim Singer.
No, he sends out all these other guys that go out there for him.
So it can be done.
But-
And let me
You
just
gotta
say
hire
something
people.
about you
Hire
can do it better than everybody else. You probably can, but there's more of an ego in there than there is to your
Exactly. That's
benefit. If you don't think people's gonna work with Laura Sanders,
Yeah.
even if Laura don't show up.
That's
Because
why
your
you do it.
reputation precedes you, I
That's
That's
promise
what
you.
you're gonna help me do.
Yeah,
And that's why you do is good. You do
Can
it
I
because
I
you
didn't hear
have
you.
Margo.
yes.
I like to make two observations. One thing that I was told once that really rings true is, in real estate, perfect is the enemy of good, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to accept that you're gonna have to delegate to someone that will do a good job, even if it's not as good as what you could do, because
That's
when you talk to-
99.7% of the deals that go on.
And let me ask you, on that idea, Laura, if you could do one deal not as good as Laura can do, but it closes, and that's one more deal than you could have done by yourself, you make more money, don't you?
No, I get it, and I was doing that, but every time what ends up happening is, and you tell me, what split do you think it should be?
Okay, well, okay, no.
Because
What?
I
That's
get it,
getting
but
ahead of
it's still-
ourselves.
That's the problem.
That's
They're
getting
hiring
ahead
the
of
wrong
ourselves.
people.
We're on page 6 of 118.
Yeah.
And I would
So I
agree that-
promise you, I think we're gonna get closer to
Yeah.
what your issue is.
I would agree that that's getting ahead of us. That's why I'm here, because I'm not sure how I would structure, how I would pay, how I would delegate. I'm here to learn that. But I would say your confidence in yourself is why you feel you're the best, and that's why you feel it's so hard for anyone else to try
I
to
can
take
still
That's
their
get
why
better
this is a
though.
good class.
And that's the thing, and you're gonna be able to do that with a team, I think. So
The other
you gotta be
comment-
open though. You gotta
Marco, you
open-minded
need to be
too.
a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I know.
Throw some elbows.
That,
He's afraid of me.
yeah, right.
But he's a cupcake, so
You guys,
This is
you
getting
guys
good,
really
yeah, I like
buy
this.
the Marco first impression thing. Not as nice as you think. Let me check. Let me
Fuck
check.
down, motherfucker.
Let me tell you something. The other thing I think I ran into a problem that was just the opposite of Laura. I wanted to grow a team for the wrong reasons, and instead of growing a team because I had to and I couldn't possibly grow beyond the 24 hours I had in the day, I just wanted to grow a team because I thought that was what you're supposed to do. And I think the correct thing is you do what you can until you can't go any higher without delegating, without growing a team, and you grow out of necessity, not out of ego.
So that's the point. We're going to tell you, and again, 6 off page 118. But we're going to tell you that if you can't get the most out of every minute of that 24 hours, and still need to do more, you're not ready to necessarily start a team. Because we want to get the most out of your 24 hours. When you are now at the point where you can't even kiss your kids good night when they go to bed, maybe you need to start building. You understand what I'm saying? If we haven't exhausted everything we can do, and we've been perfected us doing the most vital activity at the right time, which again, even probably the Tim Elms of the world doesn't do everything right, every situation, but that's what we're telling you need to be almost. You need to have everything that you do systemized to where you get a buyer, you put them in your system. You get a seller, you put them in your system. And that's what you do, Laura, but your problem is I don't think you really even know that that's your system by definition. It's just what you do. You can't,
No, I am, I'm just a worker.
you can't give it to somebody else unless it's systemized. And so, and again, we're going to get there, but maybe you're not ready yet. But so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's keep going. Let's leave this page.
Oh, I'm ready.
I don't like this page anymore. Okay, because if only for well, actually, let's look at number 3 first of all. Laura, I don't know because you do so much business. Do you have Peak and Valley results?
No.
Peak and Valor's, what do you
No,
mean by
like
that?
you have no closings in a lot of, she's always like pretty.
Do you have more? Do you do more business in January and less business in February and more business in March and less
I would
business?
say that every year's been different, but I would say sometimes January is a little low, and then it kind of stays stable, and then December's a hit or miss.
Okay.
So I
What
would say
about you, Marco?
consistent
No,
throughout
I
the year.
definitely do.
Definitely do. And wouldn't you say, being around a lot of agents, okay, because we're talking about really an exception, but
Yeah.
most agents
Most
have Peak and Valley results. So let's talk about that for a second. You want to eliminate those, right? Well, why? Let's look at why you have a Peak and Valley result. Okay, we have great agents in this office. We'll do 8 deals in 1 month, no deals the next, 8 deals the next, no deals the next. Why is that? Let's think about it. Because you're going to spend all your time, energy, effort, everything you're doing to get every deal you possibly can, because that's all you're working on. You're not working on any closings, right? You're just working on getting deals, prospecting. Now I've got a bunch of deals, I have to keep those together, right? So I'm not working on getting any more deals next month, so now I don't have any in the pipeline, and so on and so forth, and you can have a pretty darn good year that way. But if you want to eliminate that, how can you do that if you're only one person? That's the idea. Because if you don't have any time in your 24 hours to be prospecting when you're working on closing your deals, that's what's going to happen. So somebody else could possibly be prospecting for you, right? Your higher use is going to be to close the deals, right? The thing you should be at right now, today, Mike already did it. Your highest priority for today, it's not personal development, although this should be high on your list.
It is.
But it should be at a closing. If you had a closing today, that's your number 1 priority, right? So that's what you should be focused on. But that doesn't mean you can ignore prospecting, right? That's how you eliminate Peak and Valley results, right? And the other 2, successful life, you want to get wealthy, you do, right? Everybody does. Okay. So let's examine that a little bit more closely. And we went over a little bit of this stuff. So your only limit is time, right? I love it when they give a movie character as a quote, right? Money is not the key asset in life, time is. We've heard that before, right? So your career goal should be to make as much money as you can in the hours you are willing to invest. Understanding this concept and behaving accordingly is the first step toward creating and funding the life you inspire to. Since time is indeed your only limit, it should be viewed as a precious resource. So has anybody ever been in like a Tony Robbins or one of these seminars where they literally calculate how much money each minute is worth to you?
Yes.
Right? Did Mike Ferry do that?
I'm pretty sure.
I think
Tom Ferry does.
Tom Ferry does that. Well, there's a reason they do that. They want you to understand every time you go click Facebook, how much money you just lost, right? That's the point. And I don't mean just Facebook. I mean anytime you're wasting any amount of your time or not doing the thing that is going to put the most money in your pocket, you lost this much amount of money. That's why you figure that out.
I'm not
right?
liking any more of your posts.
Listen, I make money on Facebook because I got to be social. I got to go out there and meet people, and maybe you do too, and that's okay. Just make sure it's vital to your business.
I just want my wings from Thursday night.
Say that again.
Where's my wings from Thursday night?
Your wings.
Yeah, it's not my fault you scheduled it last Thursday instead of the Thursday before and changed
You
it.
want some wings, Laura? I'll get you some wings. You want some pizza too?
No.
Okay. All right. So
Proteins.
tomorrow's not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed one more day on this earth. All right, we all know that. So let's look at the cost of wasting 1 hour per day. This might be eye-opening. So if you waste 1 hour per day, 6 days a week, right? Times 50 weeks, that's 300 wasted hours a year. 300 times 30 dials you could have made in that hour, right? 30 calls to your sphere of influence that you could have made, right? That's 9,000 additional listing dials you could have made. 9,000 additional dials with a 15% talk to dial conversion rate would be 1,350 additional listing talks. 1,350 of those with just a 10% appointment to talk conversion would be 135 more set meetings. Laura, you're going to do a lot more than that. At an 80% show-up rate, you'll have 108 additional listing meetings. If you only get 60% of those, do you get 60% of the listings you go on?
I don't really keep enough track, but I think
Would you
so.
say that sounds accurate? Marco, what do you think?
If they actually end up listing with anyone. yes.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't do anything.
Okay, so that would be 65 additional listings taken. And if you only sold 67% of that, which I think is crazy, I don't know where they come up with that number. I think you're going to sell more of those. But let's go very conservative. That's 44 additional closed transactions. If it's just $5,000 average gross commission income times 44, that's 220,000 additional income you could have made, right? 65% for taxes, that's 143,000 additional net income, and if you invest that at 8% for 10 years, that's $2 million you could put away. I mean, it's just numbers, right? But that makes me a little sick. But that's the truth. So let's talk about operating at your high and best use. We already kind of went over this. I talked about this because I went ahead of myself. But here is the dollar productive food chain. These are the most important things that you should be doing every single day when you wake up. I love this sheet of paper because you can literally take it out of your drawer every morning when you wake up and ask yourself, am I doing my most dollar productive thing today? Because you're going to start at the top of the list and you're going to ask yourself a yes or no question. Do I have a closing today? Am I getting a check? Mike?
Yes.
So that was your most important thing for the day and you got it done. Okay? But if anybody said, no, I don't have a closing, then the second most important thing on this list is, do you have a transaction? Are you holding a deal together, negotiating an offer, taking a listing, or writing an offer? And if you say yes, that's your most important dollar productive item for the day. That's what you should be focused on. If you say no to that, move on down the list. Then you have a presentation you're doing. Are you going on a listing conversation? Are you taking a qualified buyer in the car? Are you working with a buyer making offers and looking at properties? If yes, then that's your most important thing for the day. If no, move on down the list. What's the last thing on the list, Jim?
Prospecting.
Prospecting.
Yeah.
So if you said no to the first three things on the list, can you say no to the last? No. That's what you should be doing then. That's how that works. That's how you make sure you're constantly doing the most dollar productive thing. Every day, every activity, you can look at it and say, do I have one of these things? And if your answer is no, you move on down the list, but you never say no to prospecting, right?
Of course.
So somebody should be in charge of all of that. And the whole point is, at some point, you never want to make a phone call again, don't make it. Have somebody making it on behalf of the Dunn team, right? That's how that works. So the only way to get to the aha moment here is to understand that you're not going to be able to successfully do all that as one person at a certain level, which is why we need to delegate. Okay? We talked about eliminating peak and valley results, so let's move past that one. Okay, so living an abundant life. Again, we talked about this a little bit too, so we told you we want you to be a business owner, right, as opposed to being self-employed. When you're self-employed, you work for you. You develop you. You develop systems, and that might be the key one to star right there. Your funds require you, which means you can make a lot of money, but you have to spend a lot of time, right? The difference between business owner is finding and developing others. Passive income with risk. And there is a risk involved when you find and develop others, as you've probably found out, right? But if done successfully, you can have a lot of money and less of your time, right? And that should be the goal, okay? Let's go past that. Let's talk about getting wealthy for a second. This is the final reason an agent will want to leverage themselves out of their business. This page takes us from real estate being get rich to real estate being get wealthy. Leverage is the key to abundance, the key to wealth. You have to be willing to leverage yourself in one of three areas. The first area is the way you think. Leverage yourself in your mind. Does that make sense? You can't do the rest. You can't actually leverage yourself unless you can leverage yourself in your own mind. And that's probably going to sound something like being able to delegate and somebody wanting to work with your team even if they don't get to talk directly to you, right? Are you thinking entrepreneurially, whatever? Or are you still thinking as a salesperson? Because that mindset has to shift. Once that happens, it's about building systems. You're open to building systems because you are thinking entrepreneur. Say it, Maria, please. I want you to say that word for me.
Entrepreneur.
Perfect. See, people don't think about building systems. Only business owners do. Salespeople act reactively. They just do. They don't think about what that means or how to build it up. Okay? That's why thinking is so important on the front end. You have to think entrepreneurially before you can act entrepreneurially. And so the whole point is, some of these guys like your Richard Branson, they schedule, literally write down in their schedule, hours to just think. Do you guys know that? Brainstorming sessions, right? My brother once told that to my dad before he moved over to this office. He said, told my dad, I can't do all this busy work. I need time to just sit and think about our systems. My dad laughed at his face. That said, my dad has a business that if he left, nobody would be making any money. So I don't know who's right. Don't tell my brother though. I still find him. Okay? But the point is, they do set aside time to think. Time to actually sit down and go over their systems. Time to reflect. Time to figure out how to make things better. Okay, and the third area you need to be willing to leverage yourself is in the people you surround yourself with. Okay? It's a mindset shift first. It's moving to behavioral, and then ultimately you leverage your relationships. Okay, when you are completely leveraged, you're thinking the way you need to be thinking, you built the systems you need to build, and you surrounded yourself with the right people. By the way, notice how all our momentum business classes align with that. Right? Thinking plus systems plus people equals leverage. All of the classes we teach align with this concept. Okay? It's for a reason, right? So, what we're going to do is, first we're going to teach you to change the way you're thinking. We did that with perspective class, okay? Then we help you put the right systems in place with reaching your potential, right? Scheduling. One example of that is the vital activities checklist, okay? Following that. Finally, we're going to help you find the right people to delegate those activities to using this class. So hopefully we can help you do that, okay? So let's move forward. Quick, let's review here. Why do you want to delegate, Mike? Why do you want to delegate? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Raise your right hand. Everybody raise your right hand. Okay? I want to delegate because I must make the most effective, efficient use of my time.
I
Go.
must delegate so that I can make the most effective, efficient use of my time.
All right. With more enthusiasm next time, people. I must operate at my highest and best use at all times.
I must operate at my highest and best use at all times.
Sounds like a prayer group. I must eliminate peak and valley results.
I must eliminate peak and valley results.
All right, just Jim this time. That's a deep voice. I like that. I must build a business that funds an abundant life.
I must build a business that.
And I must be fully leveraged to create the wealth I deserve.
I must be fully leveraged to create the wealth I deserve.
So do we understand these rules? Do we accept these rules? Then let's move on. All right. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Right. So organizational evaluation. It's either you do or you delegate. That makes sense, right? Who else is going to go? Abundance requires being completely leveraged. Thus, it's mandatory that you progressively delegate the tasks of the operational model to a complete and highly functional staff. So again, we've seen this before. There